Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Matt Johnson in today for Ted Rowland, and it's day 4 in the plotting parents murder trial in the state of Mississippi, and we have been listening to powerful closing arguments. Defendant Jeffrey Spence is accused of plotting to kill his daughter's boyfriend, Kirby Carpenter, with his wife, Karen, and one of their daughters by the name of Caitlin. Let's get you back into court now for more of the defense's closing arguments.
If I don't speak loudly enough, let me know. Raise your hand. Just give me a sign. Let's review the timeline again because they're leaving a lot out. The Spence baby was born, the Carpenter baby, was born on July 23rd. 2022. From that day forward, Jeff Spence and Karen Spence, either both of them or one of them, was in Tippah County, Mississippi, helping Caitlin learn how to be a new mother, taking care of the baby. I think Karen Spence was here almost the entire time, the entire 4 months. And Jeff would be here and go back, take care of their place in Virginia, come back, go back, and did that for that entire 4-month period. On November the 29th, that's a Tuesday, they both returned to Virginia. And that's a 10-hour drive. Unless you drive going a lot faster than you should. That's 10 hours. They left about 3 p.m. That's in evidence. 3 p.m. on Tuesday the 29th. Arrived in Virginia in the wee hours of the morning. I'll come back to the timeline shortly. Jeff opened a bank box on the 2nd of December, I'm sorry. He opened another bank box on the 12th. The bank boxes that he opened on the 2nd and the 12th were visited repeatedly in 2023. The pictures that you see up here are items that were in these bank boxes a year later. They talk about the Chill Howard bank box. What you see, the pictures wasn't on December the 2nd. It was in December of 2023, after search warrants were obtained a year later. Okay? The government claims, I told you when we started, the government claims things that they can't prove. They can't prove that Jeff Spence was in Mississippi on November the 30th, 2020. They can't prove that he was at Carpenter home. They can't prove that he did anything. There's no proof. No hard proof. There's nothing. No scientific evidence. Nobody saw him. He came all this way, did all this stuff, and nobody saw him. Now, on November the 30th, which is Wednesday, he was, in fact, with his wife at their home. And bear in mind now, they haven't been together in this home at that point for 4 months. She's been here in Mississippi. He's been coming and going. This is their first night, their first dinner as a couple in their own home in 4 months. Now, how do we know he's there? Well, 2 reasons. Number one, Karen and Caitlin have a text exchange. We all know what that is. We've got a cell phone. You write back and forth. I do it with my daughters at night. You know, just casual, checking in sorts of emails. And this is qualitative evidence. You don't have to have it notarized. You know how I came into possession of this? Just so you know how this whole system works. This is not something I found and I did find it, but it's not something I produced. This is the product of what's called discovery in a lawsuit, in a court case. Discovery, that means giving information. And you know where this information was obtained? By them. This came from them. This text message between Caitlin and Karen came from the government. You know, when you get arrested, trust me, law enforcement types want your cell phone. They love your cell phone. They love to go through it and see what they can find. And that's what they did in this case. This is what they do in every case. They get your cell phone, they get a warrant to go into it, they go into it, and you've heard the word dump it, they dump it, extract it, dump it. And this produces information. It produces information. And the information that they produce, and they didn't know I would find it. When I get the phone dump, it's thousands. It's not just, oh, look here. I have to go digging for this. I guess they thought I wouldn't find it. Caitlin and her mother, y'all have this with you when you're back there. Caitlin and her mother are having this casual evening checking in sort of exchange of, you know, what's for dinner? Really enjoy seeing Nola. She's such a doll, that sort of thing. And then Karen says, Dad and I are eating hamburgers in a few minutes. He just got up from a good nap. He worked hard today, inside and out. The hounds are back. I don't know what that's a reference to. Love you lots and lots. And then Caitlin writes back, LOL, good. I'm glad to hear that. I know you missed his hamburgers. Thank you so much, both of you, for helping out so much with Enola. You are the best grandparents. I don't have to have that notarized. This is qualitative evidence that they discovered in a cell phone search, and it tells you that Karen and Jeff, on November the 30th, are about to have dinner for the first time together in 4 months. First time together in their own home in 4 months. Help you understand how to read these things. If you look at some of the small print on this text message right here, you will see that it was sent on November the 30th, 2022 at about 8 p.m. I hope you paid attention when I had Caitlin on the witness stand the other day. She didn't know I had found this. I don't have to tell her.
All right, we do have to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Coming up, more of the defense's closing remarks. This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice.
This week,
a father faces a jury for the murder of his daughter's boyfriend. We're previewing each day's proceedings in the plotting parents' murder trial.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
4 dead students.
None of it seemed to make any sense.
He was evil.
What devastation.
All I can do is scream.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rowlands. New episode Saturday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific.
Only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Matt Johnson. Big day here at Court TV. It's all coming down to this, and then it's going to be a verdict watch. We have been watching together those closing remarks in the plotting parents murder trial for defendant Jeffrey Spence. Prosecutors say that he murdered his daughter's boyfriend, Kirby Carpenter, for money. But the defense claims that the victim was a drug dealer and someone else is responsible. Let's get you back into that courtroom now for more of the defense's closing remarks.
Tell them what I found. They had to give me the phone number, but I don't have to tell them what I found. I could bring it up in court, which is what I did. And when she was sitting right there, and I started quizzing her about this, she was paying attention. I hope you were. She was stunned. She didn't know what to say. And when I asked her, kind of difficult to kill Kirby Carpenter in Mississippi on November 30th, 7 or 8 p.m. and be in Saltville, Virginia, having hamburger dinner at the same time. Isn't it, Katie? Isn't it? Difficult. If you remember, all she could say was, this is a quote. That's what it said. But only retort to my question of how do you explain killing somebody in Mississippi and being in Saltville having dinner with your husband? Well, that's what it says. And that's what it says. She didn't need this waterfall confession. Waterfall confession never happened. This is Jeffrey Spence is up to her eyeballs in all this. I'm not sure you'll ever get her whole truth. And she knew she was up to her eyeballs in all this. She was the first one investigating. She was the first one to lawyer up. And what she did in April of this year is get herself some relief. And you don't get relief from the government just because you want some relief from the government. You got to give them something. And so she makes up this story about a waterfall confession, wanted to hear it from her father. And she knew on November the 30th, 2022, exactly where her father was, exactly where he was on November the 30th, 2022. Because on that day, she was communicating with her mother about hamburger dinners they're fixing to have, and then Caitlin says, I know you've missed his hamburgers. She knew where her father was on November the 30th, 2022. She didn't have to go ask him. It never happened. She's making it up. Well, you know, what got Jeff Spence arrested initially was a statement from this guy named David Barnes. David Barnes was in trouble just like Caitlin was in trouble. David Barnes was facing life imprisonment because he's a career criminal. And he went and gave a statement in 2023, a year after the time frame that we're talking about with Kirby. He went and gave a statement to Chris McAllister about something he heard at the funeral. Well, Caitlin, you heard her say, I asked her about that. Something that Caitlin said to him at Kirby's funeral. And Caitlin says, that's a lie. It never happened. David Barnes is making it up. He's making up something that he can sell to the government to get him some relief. And it's got him some relief. He's not shipped off to prison yet. Interesting facts. That's what got Jeff Spence arrested. David Barnes' statement in November 23. Well, what David Barnes did in November 23, trying to get himself some relief from law enforcement, is exactly the same thing that Caitlin Spence did at the waterfall. She's making it, nothing happened at the waterfall. She's making it up. She's making it up to be as plausible as possible. She didn't have to go ask where her father was on that day, on that night, November 30th. She knew, it's right there. She and her mother were talking. I hope you take note that David Barnes, who started this criminal case against Jeff Spence, was not brought into the court. They didn't bring him. And there's a reason. But he's not credible. And another reason they didn't bring him is because they have two competing witnesses. One saying one thing, no, you're a liar. Okay? When we first met each other last week, I told you to make sure that you make the government prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. Make sure you make them prove that Jeff Spence was in Mississippi on November the 30th, 7 p.m. Beyond a reasonable doubt. Following the timeline further, they want you to believe, I told you, that they've concocted this theory that Jeff went from Mississippi to Virginia, came back to Mississippi, did the deed, went back to Virginia, with no proof. There's no proof of any of that. None. Zero. Is that beyond a reasonable doubt? And to follow up their preposterous, foolish, almost theory, they create this almost impossible allegation that we left Mississippi in the afternoon of the 29th, drove all the way to Virginia, turned around the next day and drove all the way back to Mississippi, and then turned around and went all the way back to Virginia. Now look, they're saying that he drove 30 hours over the course of 36 hours. He left Mississippi at 3 p.m.
Still with us from the great state of California, trial attorney Lateef Gray. All right, so what do you make of these closing remarks by defense counsel here? Keep in mind, they chose not to call any witnesses, put on a case, and this defendant, it was only his right to make, or his choice, he chose not to testify. So your thoughts right now, have they done any moving the needle with reasonable doubt?
Well, he's certainly pointing out what's not there from the prosecution as far as what witnesses they didn't bring in, what evidence is lacking. And I like the fact that he does go back to this text message, and instead of running from the text message, he highlights it and focuses on the strength of the text message, and I like that.
I know, but you know, can you even verify the text messages? When we're talking about receipts, who can prove that those text messages are true? You know, that he is where he says he is.
Well, that's one way to look at it, but from his perspective, the prosecution can't prove that he's not where he says he is. So it works both ways, but I like the fact that he's not running from the text message, and he's talking about how he found this text message in multiple text messages that were given to him by the state.
Would you have advised this defendant, if you were on the team, to testify?
Probably not. I mean, there's a lot of evidence, circumstantial evidence that points towards his guilt that I don't know how he would answer the questions as to what happened with this evidence. For example, the shotgun under his bed, how would he explain that? The fact that his daughter said that he confessed, how would he explain that? The fact that his other daughter is scared to death of him, how would he explain that?